Hey guys, today we need to talk about some breaking news coming out of the Social Security Administration. A high ranking whistleblower has revealed some shocking claims about what is happening with your personally identifiable information that is being kept within the Social Security Administration. In fact, they're saying that the personal data of around 300 million Americans is at risk. So, we're going to talk about what happened, what it means for you, and perhaps most importantly, what you can do to protect yourself at this time. But first, a quick shout out to our sponsor chapter, Medicare. Seniors are saving an average of $1,100 when they reach out to chapter, and the call takes just 20 minutes. So if you are Medicare eligible, strongly recommend that you reach out to the number that you see on screen so that they can help you out. Charles Burgess is the Social Security's chief data officer. He's also the whistleblower in this case. He's claiming that members of Doge copied basically the most crucial Social Security database to a vulnerable internet server that isn't as secure as it should be. The New York Times is calling this one of the nation's most sensitive repositories of personal information, and rightfully so, because there is a lot of sensitive data in there, and we'll go over exactly what's in that database here in just a moment. Basically, they're saying that Doge members created, quote, a live copy of the entire country's Social Security information from the Numident database. And that database has all of the data that you would need to submit to get a United States Social Security card. In a couple of slides from now, we're going to break down exactly what that data is. And you're probably going to be surprised and maybe a little bit horrified by the amount of data that we're talking about there. The real issue here, of course, is that this copy lacks any security oversight from the Social Security Administration. From what I read in this report, it sounds like it's completely out of their hands, and there is no way to tell who is accessing or who has accessed the data or what they intend to do with it. And that is a very terrifying thing because, like I said, this data is substantial. It includes your name, your place of birth, your date of birth, citizenship status, race and ethnicity, parents' names and social security numbers, phone numbers, addresses, and other personal information. Now, we know from the variety of sources that the Social Security Office also collects a wide amount of other data, including banking information, medical records, income information, employment history, all of this stuff. This is a substantial database of data, and according to the document, unauthorized access would be considered a catastrophic impact to Social Security Administration beneficiaries and programs. And rightfully so, because that's more than enough information to steal somebody's identity or wreak real havoc in their lives. So let's look at what is potentially happening here. And I'm not even going to have to hypothesize on this. You're not going to have to listen to Nicole's opinions at all, because this document in the GAO report does a fine job of outlining some of the potential impacts that this database could have. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's not pleasant, and it's honestly a bit terrifying. So these are some direct quotes from this complaint. And it says, quote, should bad actors gain access to this cloud environment, Americans may be susceptible to widespread identity theft. They may lose vital health care and food benefits, and the government may be responsible for reissuing every American a new Social Security number at great cost. End quote. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a nightmare scenario to me. We're talking about identity theft, losing benefits, having to get and memorize new Social Security numbers. And then in another place, it goes on and it says, critical benefits for seniors who have long paid into the Social Security system could be at risk, particularly if the Social Security Administration needed to reissue Social Security numbers to all Americans in the event of a data breach. That would be a massive undertaking to reissue new Social Security numbers to everyone. I can't even imagine how much time and expense and complexity would be involved in that. And then, of course, here's another quote from the document. It says, if this information were to be compromised, it is possible that the sensitive personally identifying information on every American, including health diagnoses, income levels, banking information, family relationships, and personal biographical data, could be exposed publicly and shared widely. Then they're saying also that bad actors could use that information to engage in identity theft and to target people based on their unique vulnerabilities. And that is a terrible and horrifying thought, especially I think in this age where we're seeing a rise in AI and the incredible technical abilities that scammers have nowadays. Arming them with that information could be disastrous. They also said in the document that reporting suggests that Doge could be seeking this data to train and enhance AI models. So that data may have already been fed to AI. There's no real way for us to know, apparently, based on what that document says, or at least how I interpreted that when I read it. You're welcome to go in and read this report for yourself. I would love to hear what you think about it. Now, of course, there is some action being taken here, especially in Congress. We know that since February, several members of Congress have written letters and opened investigations and tried to force greater oversight into how Doge is handling a lot of this data. However, the whistleblower has raised concerns because they've been trying to get it fixed internally via their position within Social Security Administration, and they just kept hitting roadblocks, which is why they decided to go the whistleblower route and try to get more attention to this issue. As a result, they are basically begging Congress to take stronger action to see what's going on with this data, to take action to prevent any vulnerabilities in that database, and make sure that none of these catastrophic outcomes come to pass. So, at that point, let's talk about what you can do right now. Because honestly, I can't fix the way the government's doing things. You can't fix the way the government's doing things. The only thing any of us can really do is try to take care of ourselves and make sure that we proactively mitigate whatever damage could come as a result of this. So the first thing I would recommend is that you freeze your credit. I think everyone should freeze their credit all the time. I'm not a, financial advisor or anything like that. It just makes sense to me that in an age where identity theft is so rampant that you keep those things frozen until you're ready to use them, then you unfreeze them, use them and freeze them again, just to make sure that other people aren't able to access your credit and use it, because that can lead to disastrous outcomes. I have some friends that were affected by identity theft, and it's been like 3 or 4 years, and they're still grappling with the complexities and the consequences of that. So I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Second thing, you want to continue to monitor your credit reports. Even if your account is frozen, keep an eye on those reports for signs of fraud. I think that's going to be even more important if this database is breached, because when you go in to access your credit, you're asked a whole bunch of security questions that are usually based on, where you used to live, or, other security questions that may be answerable based on the data that's in that Social Security database. So just proactively, I would recommend that you continue monitoring those reports just to make sure that if something were to happen, you would catch it right away instead of it snowballing massively out of control. The other thing you need to do is be scam smart, and that is getting harder and harder by the day, it seems. Scammers are aggressive and manipulative and conniving and smart, and they do whatever it takes to get to you and whatever it is they want from you. So you really do need to be extremely careful. Please go watch our other videos on how to stay safe, especially from Social Security scams, because that's going to be more important than ever, I think, in the days ahead. Regardless, honestly, of whether or not this database is breached, because the technology is just advancing and scammers are getting more and more ability to do devious things. So make sure that you are scam aware. And then, of course, call your elected officials. Look up the names of your congressional representatives and your senators and call them and try to push them to do something to secure this database to make sure that your information isn't at risk. That's probably the most effective thing any of us can do. And of course, if you're dual eligible for both Medicaid and Medicare, I always recommend that you reach out to our sponsored chapter to make sure you're getting the very best benefits out of your plan. And then make sure you're subscribed, because if something does go wrong here with this database, I'll tell you about it as soon as I find out about it, and we'll walk through it together and figure out what we can do. We do a lot to cover benefits news on this channel, and we also talk about a lot of resources that may be helpful to you. So just make sure you're subscribed and stay tuned for any of that as it comes out. And I will be back soon, hopefully with much better news for you.